This is an interesting insight. Two of the victims were the Pakistani businessman and his 19-year-old son, right? Shahzada and Suleman Dawood, father, son, special bond. And on Father's Day, they joined three other men on what was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, and it wound up being the last of their lives. Now, there are all these questions, right? They're not just among us. They are among the families of people who were on that sub.
The wife of Mr. Dawood and his son, the wife and mother of two people who died on that Titan, spoke out about the last time she saw them.
We just hugged and joked, actually, because Shahzada was so excited to go down. He was like a little child.
Was that a lifelong dream of his?
Yes, absolutely. He had this ability of childlike excitement. So they both were so excited. It was supposed to be Shahzada and I going down. But then I stepped back and gave the space to Suleman because he really wanted to go.
Thought of a 19-year-old trapped on that was just next level. Because, you know, the other crew members were older, they were there of their own interest, they were there for their own reasons. But Suleman was just there for a Father's Day bonding experience. And to be honest, as terrible as this sounds, at least knowing that they wouldn't have had time to know, they would have just been sat there enjoying themselves, and then suddenly, boom, and it was over. To know that my Suldi didn't feel a moment's pain, that his brain didn't even realize. I never thought that I would question every breath of air I took, because I was just thinking, oh my God, how dare I breathe when my Suldi can't? That's the thing about Suleman. He had a sense about things, and he had a sense that this was not okay, and he was not very comfortable about doing it. He was very, very not into doing it, but it was a Father's Day thing. It was a bonding experience.
Hi guys, this is a little bit of a weird thing going on, so I don't know who's telling the truth, but a father and a son died in the Titan submersible. So he is Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleman. So there's an interview that the mother gave, and there's also an interview that the sister of Shahzada Dawood, the businessman, the sister, gave. And the mother is saying something different than the sister about why the son Suleman was on the Titan submersible. So we will have a look at both interviews, and then we will have to make our own judgment of why the teenager was on board of the Titan. So, you know, sometimes in families, there's internal fights, and especially between women. So I don't know if there is something like this going on, that the aunt kind of wants to indicate that it's the mother's fault that the son was there, and maybe vice versa, because what the mother's saying kind of is indicating something different. So let's start with the mother's interview, and then we will watch the aunt later on.
And mother of two passengers killed on the Titan submersible last week is now speaking out.
This mother says she gave up her seat so her son could go on this trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christine Dawood said that she was the one who was supposed to accompany her husband on this dive, but ultimately gave up that seat so her son could go. Now, this is coming about a week after a family member said that the son didn't want to go because he was scared, but the mother insists that he was, quote, so excited.
So he would not go anywhere without his Rubik's Cube.
Suleman's mother says not only was the dive something her son was so looking forward to, but the 19-year-old brought a Rubik's Cube with him, determined to break a world record solving it underwater.
So he used to teach himself through YouTube how to solve the Rubik's Cube, and he was really fast at it. I think his best was 12 seconds or something like that.
These are some of the fond memories of her son that Christine Dawood holds on tightly to, trying to override them with the moment her world forever changed.
The sentence, "we lost comm," I think that would be a sentence I would never want to hear in my life again.
Christine and her 17-year-old daughter were aboard the expedition vessel in contact with the Titan when only an hour and 45 minutes into its 2-hour descent, it lost all communication. But Dawood says it wasn't until the 96-hour mark had passed that she started losing hope, messaging family members the horrible news.
I said, I'm preparing for the worst. That's when I lost hope. But my daughter, for example, she didn't lose hope until the call with the Coast Guard, when they basically informed us that they found debris.
Dawood and her daughter haven't found closure, and they don't know if they ever will. This wife and mother only knowing one thing:
that I miss them. That I really, really miss them.
And Christine also mentioned in that interview that both her and her daughter are committed to learning how to solve the Rubik's Cube in her son's honor. And in the meantime, they're also hoping to continue the work of her husband in any way that they can.
We can't look at the full interview because BBC is so tight with their copyrights. There's no way to use it. At least I haven't found a way to use it. But the wife has also said in that interview that she was supposed to be with her husband on this dive, but that she ultimately gave up her seat so that her son could go. So she said, or she insisted, that Suleman was so excited to go. So the sister, Oceangate Dawood, the sister of the businessman, she's the older sister of the Pakistani businessman, she said that in the days before the Titanic trip, that the teenager expressed hesitation about going. So she says in a phone interview, we will look at her camera interview after this, but she said in a phone interview that he called her and that he said he wasn't very up for it and that he felt terrified about the trip. And she further says the 19-year-old ended up going because the trip fell over Father's Day weekend and he was eager to please his dad, who was passionate about the lore of the Titanic. So whose fault is it, or is it anyone's fault, or is it just fate? I don't know. Let's have a look at what the aunt further said.
According to the father's older sister, okay, so his son's aunt, right? Suleman was afraid, the kid. And his aunt, Suleman Dawood, joins us now. I am very sorry for your loss. I'm very sorry to meet you this way, but I know it's important to you to tell the story. And what do you want people to know?
I want, first of all, to thank everyone that has been there for our family throughout this horrible experience. I want to say thank you to all the people that went out there for the rescue efforts, for the time they put in, for the effort they put in, for all the people that stayed up and watched the news and worried. Thanks to those, because my brother, Shahzada, and his son, Suleman, are actually heroes. They went down there for, as you said, an adventure of a lifetime, for knowledge, for bonding, to have something special in their lives. And they just, it's just heartbreaking, but I have to say, deserve it. My brother and his son are heroes, and that's how I think they should be remembered.
You will remember them for taking the chance that they did, and you recognize that they knew that they were taking a chance, that there was danger. And you say that your nephew was aware that this was scary.
Well, my nephew was a normal human being at 19 who had to go down that kind of tunnel and get into that kind of environment, would obviously be scared. That's pretty normal. So yeah, he was scared, as any 19-year-old would be. What's different about him to Sean is that he was just phenomenally trusting. He was the most kind, innocent, caring person. And he went on this in the same spirit that all the other people got on this submersible with. And he trusted everybody else because he was the youngest there. And that, unfortunately, was not the way things worked out, because my brother Shahzada also trusted Ocean Quest. He also trusted that they knew what they were doing. He also trusted the words about 35 years of safety. He also trusted they knew what they were talking about. He also trusted that they were going on something that was a viable adventure. I mean, come on. If there was any knowledge of any risk at all, he would not have put his child on there. That's a normal parental instinct. You know, if there is any danger, you don't expose your child to it. And my brother was a superb father. He was an excellent father. They went on this. The Titan went down in international waters because they knew that it was not authorized, that all the protocols had not been followed. But surely you can't blame someone for either Shahzada or Suleman. Suleman, in Suleman's case, his dad. In Shahzada's case, Ocean Quest. You can't blame people for trusting other people. Because Ocean Quest's owner himself was on there. So you can't blame people for trusting what other people say to them. What we can do is blame the fact that the problems were not highlighted. What we can do is blame the fact that the employee who brought it up, that there were issues with it in 2018, was absolutely not listened to and basically kind of silenced and got rid of. That's what we should blame. We should blame the whole idea of a corporation just using something for its profit and covering information about safety. I mean, come on, a father and son were going on that. They should have been made aware of the safety issues that were there. For example, it has a carbon fiber body. Right. Carbon fiber, that's like putting a glass submarine down at those pressures. Surely that should have been looked at. I mean, this was the third mission. 2 missions had worked. This one didn't. But even a stopped clock gives the right time twice a day. 2 missions is nothing. How can commercial people, commercial it be a commercial enterprise when the checks haven't been carried out. People do this in trust. When you and I get on a plane, we do it in trust. We don't expect the pilot to come out and give us a long story about it.
Stockton Rush wasn't in that position, right? He was pushing the limits. That was part of the sell, was that this was about the risk. This was about the danger. This was about pushing the frontiers. And I totally understand and appreciate your analysis, and not just because of where your heart is, but because of where your head is. Everything you're saying is reasonable. But of course, as you mentioned, and is true, Stockton Rush was on it as well. So it's hard to believe that he was selling something that he didn't believe. The question is, was it reasonable for him to believe it? And I know these questions are going to be pursued because I know we're going to keep pursuing them. And I believe that the lives that were lost deserve that as part of their legacy. It should be a legacy of the truth of the situation that took those lives. So we will stay on it. And Asma, I'm very sorry to meet you in this situation, but I appreciate your eloquence and your emotions, and I wish the family the best in using each other to get through this.
Thank you so much. If I may say one thing about Suleman, he was the most trusting, amazing teenager, unlike teenagers normally. He had no attitude. He had nothing but a heart of gold. And even in his very untimely, very early demise, he brought the whole world together. And that, for me, it's not a surprise because, and of course I'm biased, I'm his aunt, but I do speak not just from the heart, but from the head too, because I too have been watching every moment of media and everything that's reported.
Of course.
And I may have progressive multiple sclerosis, which means my central nervous system is riddled with holes and I'm perhaps, neurally compromised. However, I have got a degree from the University of Oxford. I have got a doctorate. So I have been able to apply my mind to this, as compromised as it is. And of course, my heart is engaged with this. There's no way of disengaging. But I think that the whole world would agree with me that everybody on Titan engaged everybody's hearts and minds. Such a precious angel that heaven couldn't do without him.
To me, the aunt really looks like she really cares about Suleman. And there's a little bit of a backstory to her. She had fallen out of touch with her brother, Shahzada. She was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis in 2014, and she has been in a wheelchair since then. And she and her husband, they decided to move from England to Amsterdam so that she would have an easier access to medical cannabis. But some of her family members, including her brother, disapproved of her use of cannabis, and they started speaking less frequently. So she said in that interview that she continued to feel close to Suleman, and she described him as thoroughly good-hearted. So it seems she kept in touch with Suleman, but not that much with her brother, which I find very sad. She still said that she has intense love for her brother. She said, he was my baby brother, and she was overwhelmed with emotion, and she said, I held him up when he was born. The parents of these siblings have also released a statement, and they have asked people to keep the departed souls and our family in your prayers. And they thanked the search teams for their untiring efforts. And they said, the immense love and support we receive continues to help us endure this unimaginable loss. And the sister Azmat has further said that the businessman was absolutely obsessed with the Titanic from a very young age. And she said when we were kids in Pakistan, we would constantly watch the 1958 film A Night to Remember. That was a British drama about the sinking of the Titanic. She also remembered that when her brother met her husband, he asked if they could sit down and watch a 4-hour documentary about the Titanic. So her brother loved going to see museum exhibitions featuring artifacts recovered from the wreckage. So she was absolutely not surprised when she learned that her brother had purchased tickets for the Oceangate mission. So she said, it's not something that I would ever do. If you gave me $1 million, I would not have gotten into the Titan. She says a very heartwarming sentence. She said, I feel very bad that the whole world has had to go through so much trauma, so much suspense. And yeah, I think the whole world is still going through it with so many other incidents. And I want to leave it at that, guys. So if you're interested in the Oceangate Titan disaster, check out my playlist. I leave the link in the description. There's a lot of Titan videos on my channel. If you made it that far, I would be very thankful if you could support my channel and subscribe, leave me a like, click the notification bell, and it would be awesome to see you again in one of my other videos. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye.